Alright, everyone. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Latham, Director of Allies in Advocacy, a self-advocacy organization fighting for the civil and equal rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We welcome you here today to our press conference on our discussion on shutting down developmental disability institutions. I am here today with my fellow panelists Ivan Novasmith, who is the chair of Self Advocates in Leadership, and Michael Raymond, the president of People First of Washington, and we are all members of the Shut Them Down Coalition. We are all here to talk to you today about why we oppose the governor, the Senate, and the House versions of the capital budget. In particular, how each of us are against spending hundreds of millions to build a new developmental disability nursing home on the campuses of Faircrest, one of the four remaining developmental disability institutions, also called residential rehabilitation centers. These budgets also provide money to keep these institutions operating for years to come, while not funding community-based residential services enough. In addition, we are opposed to a $612 million forensic hospital, which institutionalizes a lot of people with disabilities. We strongly believe it is time for Washington state to do what 17 other states have done, and that is close their developmental disability institutions and support people in the community. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, we will be sharing our individual and organizational thoughts on this issue. After that, we will be answering any questions from reporters. We ask if you are a reporter to please put your question in the chat. We ask everyone else to sit back and listen for now, and if we have time at the end, we will take questions and comments from you. We will also take time after the event is over at 1:45 to discuss with everyone more informally.
And those on my phone.
Till now, people being
Alright.
So for my part, I'm going to first address how we and other states with large developmental disabilities institutions got here. Institutions started in the 1800s by individuals wanting to help. However, due to the Civil War and economic issues afterwards, these developmental disabilities institutions were turned into places to remove us from society, treat us like prisoners, and take our civil rights away. Things got even worse in 1900, when the eugenics movement took hold. This movement led to the forced sterilization of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This just means many females were stopped physically from having children. We also saw during this time, and even still now, people being over-medicated and abused, just because society has seen us throughout history as less than a human being, and that our lives really didn't matter. In Washington state, at the height of the developmental disability institutional model, over 4,000 individuals resided in them. Luckily though, during the civil rights movement of the 60s, and the start of the self-advocacy movement of the 70s, people started to witness that developmental disability institutions were more like a prison than a home to support and assist people to be independent. It was from this time until now that many of our country's institutions closed, and those with intellectual and developmental disabilities got to experience real life in the community with real supports. I am personally thankful that I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and that I had parents who saw me as an individual with potential. Sure, they were still encouraged in 1980, when I was one, by some doctors, to place me in a developmental disability institution, but at this time in history, they saw that I would have way more opportunities to succeed in the community than being locked away out of it. They were absolutely right. I was able to grow up pretty normally and attend a public school. I was then able to go to college at Central Washington University and get a degree in social services. Since then, I've had multiple jobs helping those with disabilities be happy and succeed in life. And in my current job, I advocate that their civil rights are upheld, as we see other minority groups doing. I am like others that are leading independent lives by hiring in-home care providers to help us with our personal needs. I'm able to hire, manage, and fire my providers on my own, and I'm also able to make decisions on my own, with very little support. So, this brings me to today. While we have made progress in our state, we have a ways to go. There are still 584 individuals residing in our remaining 4 developmental disability institutions. The institutions are the following: Rainier School in Buckley, Hillcrest in Shoreline, Yakima Valley School near Yakima, and Lakeland Village in Medical Lake. While these places have improved slightly since the 60s, they still operate like a nursing home facility instead of like a home. We know we can do better, and we are doing better for thousands of individuals who access care in the home or in residential settings like state-operated living alternatives, companion homes, adult family homes, and supportive living homes. While each one of these places vary in support, they are all located in the community and allow individuals to go to town, get a job, socialize with friends, have access to community doctors, and much, much more. These residential settings aren't perfect, and us advocates will probably keep asking legislators for changes to them. But they do support people in their local community. They do provide nursing level care in smaller residential settings. And they also get us away from a housing model that for nearly 200 years have been viewed by many people with intellectual and developmental disabilities as frightening, trauma-inducing, and isolating. Not to mention the safety aspect in this new COVID world, where we need to get away from all large segregated facilities to keep us healthy. To wrap up my part, we are demanding with the governor and our state legislators today to move us forward and not backwards. We are demanding with them to build more community residential options and not congregate living options. The developmental disability community has asked our state to build smaller 4-bedroom homes that can provide the same kinds of services in a far less segregated setting than a large congregate setting. I will put the link to our alternative proposal in the chat. Finally, from me, we demand that they close the remaining institutions and choose community, and we hope you inform your readers or listeners that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are human beings and we deserve, like everyone else, to live in our community and be able to lead successful lives. Thank you, and with that I will call Ivan Nova up to say a few words.
Well, I'm Ivanova Smith, and I am the current chair of SAIL, and I have my own experience with institutionalization. Um, my first 5 years of life, I was institutionalized. Um, I I lived in an institution, and I did not have the same freedoms that children outside of institutions have. I had um, I had no private property. I had no toys of my own. I had no clothing of my own. I didn't even know what a birthday was. Um, when I was adopted after I was 5.5, I didn't understand how to play. I didn't understand how to speak. I was nonverbal. And I did not get the same love that a child that stays with their family gets, not being in the institution. Uh, I didn't get to choose the food I ate. I didn't get to choose when I wanted to play outside or not. Every day in the institution was the same. It was the same every day. I didn't even get to own the clothes that I wore. The clothes were all shared. in the institution. And it was a very lonely life. Even the other children in the institution would not play with me. And it's probably because we all just didn't know how. And it was a very dark time in my life. And I was about to be transferred to an institution that I could not have gotten adopted out of if it wasn't for my adopted parents bringing me here to the United States. And I life was so different for me after I got out of the institution. I was eventually able to learn how to speak. I was able to learn how to read and write. I was able to meet my future husband and eventually get married and have children. I was able to get a better education. I would not have had that if I had stayed in that institution. If I had stayed institutionalized, I would have lived a way blank life. And I don't want that for anyone with a disability. People should not be institutionalized just because of their diagnosis. And that is what's happening right now. People are being institutionalized just because they need supports and that they need more supports than other people. And that is not right. It is to not be a crime to have a diagnosis and need supports. We should not be institutionalized for that reason. As the chair of SAIL, many of our members experience institutionalization here in the US. My story was from a different country, but it is happening here in the US, it's happening in Washington State. Many people that you will hear today, they have experienced living in the institutions here, and it was awful. And they don't want to go back. Nobody, once they've tasted the taste of freedom, want to go back to an institution. And so we really urge our legislators to rethink the budget that will allow people to be continually institutionalized, especially in crisis. When I am going through emotional crisis, when a person is going through emotional crisis, the last thing they want is to be segregated from their families, stripped of their rights, and put in an institution where they have no rights. We believe that everyone should have the right to where they want to live, what they, when they want to go out, when they want to eat, what they want to eat, what they want to wear, what they want to do with their life. It shouldn't be because a person needs more support that they should be institutionalized. That hurts our community. It promotes stigma, it promotes segregation, and disability is just like any other identity, just like any other demographic. We deserve all civil rights too, and we should not be imprisoned for having our disabilities, for having these diagnoses. We should not be imprisoned. And so we are asking the legislators, we are asking our governor to close these institutions, put that money in the community, get started on transitioning people out of these institutions completely and getting models that promote community, promote people's autonomy and freedom so that we all can live free, so that nobody is imprisoned for their diagnosis, that instead people are getting the care that they need in the community, whether that's behavioral care, whether that's nursing care, whether that's any of the type of care needs that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities need, that we are getting that care while we are still allowed to live the lives that we want to live, that we're allowed to get married, we're allowed to have our own children, we're allowed to be employed, we're allowed to be with our friends, hang out with our friends, go to sports games, play in sports, and all of the rest that people love to do in a community that you can't do in an institution. And it's not right for people to be separated from their families. It was wrong when doctors historically told families to put their children in institutions. That did not help the family, that did not help the person. All it does is silence the person and separate a family from their parents and those who love them. It's not what we should be doing in 2021. We should get these places closed. We should start getting that money used for community supports. We need the specialized care that people with IDD to be in a community. The excuses that I hear for these institutions is that they give specialized care. Well, that specialized care needs to be in the community, and we need to stop only offering it in institutions. We should not be segregated to get specialized care. So I urge the media that is here today to please let the word out that self advocates, we want these places closed. We people who firsthand experience know the horrors of these places. They know the history. There's been research on the history. There's been research on what's currently going on in these institutions that needs to be looked at. So I urge you to please look at the DRW Set Them Down report. That will give you a lot of more detailed information of what's currently going on in these institutions and how people are being harmed. People are being sexually assaulted in these institutions. People are being neglected. They are being tied to wheelchairs. They're being restrained against their will in these institutions. And that's not how people should be treated. We should be treated with respect and dignity. We should have our autonomy respected. We should get to choose what we want to eat, when we want to eat. We should get to choose the clothes we want to wear, the activities that we want to do in our community, the um, the friendships and relationships that we want to make. We should get to have power over that, and we shouldn't only just be surrounded by staff, but by people who care about us and love us and want us to have our freedoms and our families. We should not ever be separated from our families. So thank you. And now I will lead to one of our great leaders and a mentor of mine, Mike Raymond.
Um, Actually, we might do a video first, and then you might.
Next up, we are going to watch a short video from another self-advocate, Julie Clark.
Oh, the video. Yeah, here we go.
My name is Julie Clark, and I am using my Tobii Dynavox speech device to share my message about why I to live in an institutional setting. These are my own words, and my speech device will help me get them out clearly. Cerebral palsy is my disability. I am 54 years old, and I live in Lacey. I was in Western State Hospital for 3 months in 2001. CoQA is a residential provider, and they got me out of the hospital in September of that year and put me into my apartment with day and evening caregivers. I was in independent living. In independent living, my caregivers did cook and clean. I was able to come and go as I pleased. My transportation was using public transportation. Being independent was especially important to me because I could set my schedule. I chose how to run my life. I worked for the Department of Health and Human Services as a secretary for 17 years before I retired in 2018. Working was essential to me because I was involved, contributing to my community. I was an important member of that organization for many years. The United Churches of Olympia is my church, and I have been going there for over 25 years. I am an active member of my church. The church is important to me. As I aged, I could not take care of myself. I needed to have 24-hour care. So, CoQA placed me in a shared home that CoQA runs. I had a roommate who was yelling all the time. My roommate would assault the caregivers. Being in the shared home was not safe for me. In November 2019, I moved to an apartment in Lakeview with CoQ's help. I get 24-hour care. A nurse comes to check up on me because my hair is high. I have a feeding tube, vest chest compression machine, and higher lift. My caregivers go everywhere I go. It is nice to be living on my own again. I was in and out of the hospital with pneumonia for the last 6 months of 2019. Shelley is a nurse that CoQF hired. She has taught me how to breathe better. I have not been to the hospital with Shelley's help since January 2020. I am in community inclusion, a part of a supported employment program that allows me to continue to be active in my community now that I am retired. It is still essential for me to be involved in the community. I do a lot of advocacy and volunteer work. When I was in an institution, I could not do what I can do in the community. I am pleased to be in the community to set my schedule and be involved in whatever activities I choose. I have all the freedom that my health will allow, and I am grateful to be an active part of my community. A group of self-advocates was formed known as the Shut Them Down Coalition, and I am a member of this group. This group wants to close all the residential rehabilitation centers, RHC, to allow all of these individuals to be active members of their community. I strongly believe that all disabled people should live in the community and that nobody should live in an RHC. Will you sign a petition to shut them down?
I know. Somebody's gonna always do with that in mind.
Hi, my name is Krista Melhofer. I'm the Program Administrator for People First of Washington. We're the largest self-advocacy organization in Washington State made up of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We have over 30 chapters around the state, and our state board is currently held by our state board president, Michael Raymond, who's going to be speaking to you today with questions. Mike, are you able to unmute? We still can't hear you, sir. While we're waiting for that, I just wanted to let everyone know that questions can be put in the comments for our presenters today.
Mike, just try to press the unmute button. It's right at the little microphone.
Okay.
No, not yet. There we go.
All right.
No.
No, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go ahead and call staff where Mike is at and see if we can get some technical assistance. Can I pass it back over to you, Ivanova?
Yes. So until Mike is able to get himself unmuted, does anyone have any questions for us, or at least Sean and I?
Hey, Ivanova, this is Kyle. I sympathize with what you guys are going through. The whole thing is when I did visit one that was like 30 years ago, what I saw, the main message that we got to get out to them as well is how would you like to live in a building that is dilapidated and hasn't been, not up to standards, etc. And rather to get people in the community to do so. So a lot of these buildings and our institutions are outdated or that don't meet up to standards, don't meet fire standards, earthquake standards, or other safety standards. And it's rather to take care of that, shut them down, demolish the buildings, maybe turn them into a park or something like that for people to enjoy, and to be and then the money can be served in the community.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So if you are a reporter, you are welcome to ask any questions right now. Yeah, please, or you can raise your digital hand and we can call on you. There we go. Looks like Mike, you got unmuted. So I will
Thank
give
you.
it back to Mike
Okay.
now. Take it away, Mike.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
The reason why, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well,
No, go- You go, Mike. It's your time.
I would like to have, the reason why I would like to have the Rainier school shut down, the doctors told my mom to put me in when I was 3 years old. Can you, and go ahead, Chris, you can help me.
Sure. Can you tell us what it was like to be in Rainier School?
They treated us like dogs.
Did they ever let you out into the community?
No, my sister, me and my sister is the one that helped me out.
Okay. And then how did you eventually get out, and how long were you in there?
I was in there for 20 years.
What was your life like after you left Rainier?
After I left Rainier, they put us, after my wife and I got married, they put us in a group home until we found a house.
How long have you been trying to shut down institutions in Washington State?
Almost 40 years, a long time. Nobody listened to us, so we still are doing it.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to, or a message that you want to send to the governor or the legislators who have proposed an expansion of institutionalization within the state budget?
I would like to see them close down. I would like to see them close them down. Pretty. I like to see them. The reason why I like to see them closed down, I saw people getting getting killed and stuff in there, because I seen one of the attendant took a wet towel and choked him. And I want him closed down now. Thank you. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Now, who's next?
Do you have any other questions from the audience?
Do we have any other questions from the audience?
Please don't be shy to ask a question. Oh,
Hey, Mike, question
Yeah.
for you from Kyle. How did it feel when you finally got out and were on your own? How did it feel?
I feel like I was feeling good about it. Wife and I,
Freedom.
we feel
Yeah.
good. When her and I got out, we had a party. That's how I feel
Great
when I
job.
got out.
So it looks like Jeremy, Norton, Paul, and Stacy Staden have their hands up. So I will let Jeremy, you go first, and then Diane.
Thank you, Ivana. But first, thank you for making this opportunity today. And for those who don't know me, I'm Jeremy Norton Paul. I'm the Executive Director of the Washington State Developmental Disabilities Council. We have governor-appointed members who represent different parts of the state. And we work on a lot of different areas, but one of the things that we feel most strongly about is closing institutions. And so we're right there with you. And we're working very hard alongside all of you to make that a reality in Washington State. And I wanted to ask kind of a general question, and I don't know that there's an easy answer to it, but I wonder, what do you think is the most impactful thing that advocates and allies and others in the community can do to get closer to finally getting institutions closed?
I think something that allies can do is they can contact the legislators and let them know that we don't want these institutions, and educating other people, their friends, their family, professional people they work with, to say, you know, this is happening to people and we need to shut them down. And so I think that is the way, is really getting a hold of your legislators and letting them know that we don't want this budget that supports these institutions. Diana, you had a question?
Yes, Mike, I want to go back to you for a minute. Mike and I have known each other for more than 20 years, and he has shared a lot of his story about what the first 20 years of his life was like at Rainier. Mike, when you got out of Rainier, we know the horror stories, some of them. Nobody will ever know all that went on with you while you were in there. But when your sister finally got you out of the institution and into the community, what did you do with your life? What are some of the things that you've accomplished now that you're out in the community?
I went out, bought myself, bought me and my wife a house, and we had a child, my daughter, and we had a very good days by having, but she was in what, go ahead, Diane.
Diane was Rainier with you, yes, and your sister helped get her out as well, right?
Right.
And then you guys got married?
Got married, we got married and we had a daughter.
How long were you married, Mike?
47 years.
That's longer than most people ever get. You accomplished so much just in that. And then you guys had a daughter.
Yeah.
A special education teacher. And
Yeah.
she had a son, so you're a grandpa as well.
Right.
Did you have a job? Did you work?
I worked at the Goodwill for a while.
Yeah, you spent a lot of time there working.
Yeah.
What about other things? Have you been on some boards?
Been on People First Board, been on the Washington, on the governor's board, and I'm still on that. I'm still doing that. And I'm a part of the ILI one.
The Allies Board, yeah.
And I've been on too many boards.
Yeah, you don't even remember all of them, huh?
Yeah.
But you know, when you were put in the institution way back when, those were the days when they viewed kids with developmental disabilities as throwaway people.
Right.
Originally, those institutions, they're called schools for a reason. They were supposed to just be for a person like you, a child with a developmental disability, to go someplace to go to school, because you couldn't go to a regular school. They wouldn't let you.
That's right. We had to stand. We had to just stand in line until we got. They used to make us walk to schools. They didn't. Hey, I did not. I did not like what they called me.
Yeah, they called you some not very nice names, huh?
Right.
But when those schools were created, when you turned 21, you were supposed to go back into the community, but they weren't doing that. They kept people there after that. And
Right.
so they're still called schools with people living there for 40 or 50 years.
Uh-huh.
But Mike, you have proven what can happen when somebody who they thought had no potential is not isolated in an institution. You got out in the community, you got married, you bought your own home. You were married for almost 50 years. You had a child, you have a grandchild, you worked, you paid into the system. You accomplished a lot when they didn't think you could accomplish anything, and you proved them wrong.
Right.
You need to keep proving that, Mike.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
We have some questions in the chat. Cody asked, would anyone be comfortable sharing some more of the horror stories from the time in an institution? And I have an answer to that, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, the one time I remember getting a bath in the institution was they had all the kids standing naked in line.
That's right. That's right.
And
Yeah.
they had like this little plastic kiddie pool thing, and they would just spray us down and dump water on us. And I remember just staring at the ceiling, just looking at the little floaters in my eyes. And that was my way of entertainment when I was in the institution. And they made us stand in a lot of lines. And I remember the food they would give us was only like this watery vegetables. And I don't remember having anything other than that till I got out. But like, I liked it when it was the purple vegetable, because that was beets, and I liked the beets, but I did not like the green vegetables. But you had to eat them anyway, else you were starved. And my body has memories that I don't have visual memory of, but my body has memories. Like when I was adopted, I dropped a piece of food. Like my mom was teaching me how to eat a hamburger, and I dropped it, and I had a huge meltdown thinking I wouldn't get to eat again. Because in the institution, if you dropped your food or you spilled your food, you didn't get any more to eat. And I was really malnourished when I was adopted. And so that's just an example answering that question from Cody. Mike, do you have a answer?
The reason the food was in Rainier wasn't too bad, wasn't too good. They used to, if we didn't eat it all, they used to yeah, they used to force us to eat we didn't want to eat. That's what I saw. Any more? Want to ask?
There's another question from Katrina. She has two questions, actually. What work is being done to educate people in the institutions about community living? What work is being done to educate parents of people living in institutions?
No, I
You wanna
can't
take
answer
that one,
the third
Sean?
one. Yeah, I can't answer the third one. So,
This is Sean. In our state, the Developmental Disability Ombuds that goes to check on residents at the institutions, and they also educate them on their options. Also, Disability Rights Washington also goes into the institutions to assist residents and give them information. Both Allies and People First are also trying to get peer mentors in the institutions to help people know their rights /
we wanna help people understand the road to community living.
We want to help people understand the roads to community living.
Their program.
Their
We
program.
help people rather than from education into the community.
Which helps people transition from the institutions and into the community.
And I would also add for the family,
And you'd also add for the families,
the arts of Washington
the Arc of Washington
and their parents coalition.
and the Parent Coalition.
You talk to family members and then you try to educate them.
We do talk to family members and they try to educate them.
Yeah, so we are excited about the peer mentoring program that they're talking about funding. We feel that that could help people learn more about the community. And it looks like Holden has her hand up. Holden Muhammad. Go right ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was fixing my camera. Yeah. I just want to say thank you, Mike. I have heard, my name is Holden. I'm a parent. I have a 17-year-old daughter who has severe intellectual disabilities and other special healthcare needs. I came from Somalia to the US as a young age. I have seen a lot of people with disabilities or folks who have mental health challenges who have been chained, has been locked in rooms as a young age. So I have seen a lot. So coming here and working with families, and when I heard your story and I find out that there is an institution that exists that kept families, people with disabilities, I was really shocked. And just talking to families and hearing that we came here, families who are coming here to the new generation who's coming with a adult with disabilities, often when they're going through interviews, the officers tells them that there is better place in America that your individual with disability can get support, that they will be part of the community, that they will be basically getting the support that they need. And I have watched your story, I have heard your story, and I am so against this institution that still exists. It breaks my heart every time I hear stories. I do have a 17-year-old beautiful young woman that that I hope one day she can continue to stay in the community and get support. Thank you for all the advocacy that you have done. I do share with families who looks like me the information that I gather here, so that they can be better, strong parents for their loved ones. Because even though the institution exists, some of them still do feel they're isolated into their own community. And it's very challenging being out in the community and having an individual with disability. So thank you for, again, sharing. And this is really a space where I gather information again. And I hope we can keep closing institutions so that we would not have our kids going to. Thank you.
Thank you, hold on. So I know that we have King 5 News here and Cairo 7. Do you have any questions for us? You're more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question. We encourage it. Thank you. Well, thank you for attending. Even if you had no question, thank you for attending and for being here. So we're gonna wrap up now. If anyone else wants to stay behind and have some discussion, you're more than welcome to. But thank you all for being here and hearing our stories. And I hope that we can get more done to get these places closed down.